The Egyptian writing system, or better known as hieroglyphics. Now, the Egyptian writing system began in Egypt long ago, about 3800 BC. That's before Christ. Now, the location of Egypt is realistically in between Africa and Asia, and southern Asia for that instance. And here in this picture, you can see right about here that the Nile, the world's longest river, extends right up through Egypt. And so not only was this, a lush tropical warm area, maybe not over here, but still, not only was this a lush tropical area, but it was also flourishing with life in general. This is where we have wonderfully recorded documents of so many pieces of human history just in Egypt, just in this little area of the world. Now, ancient Egypt did house this now extinct language. My apologies. And if you go there today, even you can find the hieroglyphics on pyramids, on tombs or shrines. Each idol is nearly overrun with stories and ideas and so much. There's so much that hieroglyphics cover. So hieroglyphics first began as to be known as sacred carvings, or as an Egyptian would most likely refer to it, the gods' words. You see here all of this, right? It looks more or less like a picture rather than writing. But no, this meant so much. There's so much here. So the language for hieroglyphics was only reserved for people of influence to write with. Scribes, pharaohs, people that truly had meaning back then, not just what we consider, a lowly peasant to be, or would have looked like, at least. The evolution of hieroglyphics, it spans a pretty distant amount. Because hieroglyphics, having been around for so long, well, they seem to have developed their own sense of human nature and the way how the words themselves evolved over time. Hieroglyphics first began as, pictures and simple birds and waves. This Chinese calligraphy class, we like to see the dogs in the pictures that we write and in the words that we write whenever the meaning could mean dog, right? And that's how hieroglyphics first began. But with the addition of human nature and, always wanting more, three glyphs, or rather symbols, were combined for an ability to create more complex writings. Now, logographic contains prefixes, suffixes, or short words like pre, ha, like su, oh, like d, right? Anything that can come before the word or after, ing, id, id, for a past tense, right? It doesn't matter. Maybe the or a, how. There's a lot of different ways that you could go about this. Now, phonetics, these were symbols that represented alphabet letters. So, if you wanted to create a whole word, a lengthy word, like that of bulldozer or pyramid, you would use a couple phonetics and determinatives. They would help narrow down the meanings of these phonetic and logographic glyphs. Just as a Spanish or English writers may have to use different endings or different middle of the word, moose or moose, right? They both mean, or they're both spelled the same, but they do mean different things. Now, the characteristics of hieroglyphics and the Egyptian writing system um, very much relied on religious significance and how, it was a sacred practice for only special people to practice. Only special people were writing these symbols. And now the pictures, they would represent objects or ideas, even actions, situations, people. Hieroglyphics can be written not only horizontally, like how we would write our words today, but they can also be written vertically. And they would just depend on how the characters, may have been oriented, maybe how the characters were written in general. Logograms, being read down here, they're some of the symbols in the writing system that represent entire words or concepts, while phonograms, like phonetics, represent sounds or syllables, a, b, k, alphabet letters. Demotic script was an even more simplified form of writing that evolved a long time after hieroglyphics had begun. Because hieroglyphics were taking up a lot of different people's times, and so with introducing a shorter form of writing, then that means that people could also write more. Now, make sure to go check out these examples. They are wonderful examples of how not only hieroglyphics were created, sustained in everyday life, but also respected, since it was a sacred practice. The term hieroglyph comes from the Greek word hieros, and hieros, as the Greeks would put it, mean glyphe, which is a carving that means sacred carving. So basically, it's a big map, but you'll see that, the Greek words, they would take these hieroglyphs, right? The symbols that mean something crazy, and the Greeks turned it into one of their suffixes, which means to carve something out, right? And so, well, they did. They surely did carve stuff out, and rock and stone and stuff. And basically, these carvings were only reserved for sacred people to write with. And so, that's why it was sacred. So, hieroglyphics were not only pictures, but they also had certain meanings, as we've discussed. You could write stories with them, or even some sounded like an onomatopoeia, where it could represent a sound. Boom! Right? They would have a hieroglyph for that. And so, yeah, something to think about. Now, the Rosetta Stone, an ancient artifact that helped uncover what hieroglyphics meant, was found in 1799 and was the key. If we did not find the Rosetta Stone, we probably still wouldn't know what hieroglyphs meant today. But on there, it was first hieroglyphs. Second, were found the Demotic script, and then third, it was translated all into Greek. So, we could therefore see, this is what hieroglyphs meant into Demotic, and then Demotic translated into Greek. Well, we know what Greek means, so just reverse engineer. Boom. We know what hieroglyphs stand for. Okay. Now in the 4th century after Christ, and I apologize, not after Christ, before Christ. Sorry, there should be a B here. Demotic script fell into place as the way to write. Hieroglyphs were no longer used. They just took too long. They were outdated. There was better choices, better options. There were smarter people alive. Of course they're going to come up with something better. Now, the Egyptian language, it's a mixture of a few different Afro-Asiatic languages. These languages include Semitic languages, such as Arabic, Akkadian, or even Hebrew. Berber languages that are spoken in North Africa make up some Egyptian languages. The Horn of Africa, or the top part of Africa, includes Cushitic languages, and that helped make up Egyptian language, just as we saw how Egypt was very closely in relation to Africa. And Chadic languages, like Hausa, is spoken in West Africa. That also helped confirm how, Egyptian truly does come from all across the world. To test what you've learned during these slides, a little quiz has been put together. The first one is, what is the name of the river that flows through Egypt? Yes, you're right. It is the Nile. Okay. What does hieroglyph translate to or stand for? Sacred carving. Good. Yes. Only scribes or people of importance could write with hieroglyphs because of how sacred their meaning truly was. Now, what is the term for the symbols that were used to write out Egyptian? Remember, 3 of them are used. Let's see if you got it. The first one are logographic glyphs. The second, phonetic glyphs. And the third, determinative glyphs. Okay, I hope you got those right. Moving on to number 4. Is it true or false that hieroglyphs do not include prefixes or pictures of what is being described? Good job. They do include pictures of what is being described. So that would be false. Now, what item was used to decipher the ancient Egyptian texts? What relic, you could say? Yes, the Rosetta Stone. Oops. I thank you for having taken time to learn a little bit more about hieroglyphics and how the Egyptians communicated, sometimes even more vividly than we do today. Here you'll be able to see how our work was split up, and yes, everyone enjoyed making the slides. Again, I appreciate your time and have a wonderful day.